Okay, in this one we want to figure out how to find a specific term given two other terms, okay? So we're given two terms in a sequence. In this situation, we want to find the 8th term, and we're given the 3rd term, which is 36, and the 5th term, which is 324. Well, the first step to do this is you want to find the common ratio. What I like to do that is I like to set up a little table like this one to help us figure out what that common ratio is, and then use that table later to find that 8th term, that elusive 8th term. So elusive. So here's how this works, okay? We know that from this, the 3rd term is equal to 36, right? They didn't tell us what the 4th term is. Shame on them. But they did tell us what the 5th term is. They said it was 324. The 5th term is 324. Now, we know this is a geometric sequence. So we know that if you take 36 and you multiply it by this common ratio, you'll get the 4th term. And if you take that 4th term and multiply it by the common ratio again, you'll get the 5th term. So, think about it this way. If you take this 36 right there, and you multiply it by r, you get the 4th term. But if you multiply it by r again, then you get the 5th term, the 324. See that? See how that works? So that 36 times r should give you the 324. Well, we know this is 36 times r squared is equal to 324. And we're just going to solve for this r, this common ratio right there. So let's start by dividing both sides by 36. Now, just because I did this before, I know that 324 divided by 36 is 9. So I have r squared is equal to 9. Now I still got to solve this, so I'm going to bring this back up here. I've got r squared is equal to 9. Now how do you get rid of that square? You just take the square root of it. So we got r is equal to plus or minus 3. Don't forget that plus or minus when you take the square root. It could be plus or minus. Okay? So now that we have our r, our common ratio, we can use that to fill in more of this table. Let's just rewrite this table down here. Sadly, you guys can't rewrite it, and I can, or can't drag it like I can. But let's just use this common ratio of 3 and negative 3 to fill in this table. So we know, let's do this in black. We know what our 5th term is. Now we're trying to find the 8th term, right? So I'm just going to I'm going to add this out here. Okay? And then we got this, and then this, and then this. Okay? So let's just work our way up to it. Now, here's the weird thing, right? Our r is plus or minus 3. So we're going to be multiplying this 324 by not only a positive 3, but by a negative 3. Okay, so let's figure out what that is. What's 324 times 3? Okay, so that's 972. Got 972 for the 6th term. But it's plus or minus, right? Because we're not sure. Is the r positive or is it negative? We're not really sure. Okay, but what we do know, what we are sure about, is that since these are positive, and this one's positive, this one's going to be positive too. Okay? So, but now let's find the next term. We're going to multiply it by this. Okay, remember we multiplied it by 3, plus or minus 3. We're going to multiply it by plus or minus 3 again, but this one's for surely going to be a positive one because we know this one was positive. Okay? So 972 times 3. 2,916, and we know this one's positive, but we're not sure if this was a plus or minus, this r, right? So if it was a negative, this next one could be positive or negative. So we're going to take this 2,916 on our calculator and multiply it by 3 again, plus or minus, and we get 8,748. But again, we don't know if it's plus or minus, so we're going to put plus or minus 8,748. Did I write that right? Yeah. So there's our solution. Two possible solutions in the sequence. It could be a positive 8,748, or it could be a negative 8,748. And so that is how you can use, you can find a 8th term or a 12th term or any term given two terms in it. The first step, find the common ratio. That's what you want to do. Find that common ratio. Once you find that common ratio, and it could be both a positive and negative value, use that common ratio to fill in more of this table so you can get out to that value. Sometimes, let's say they were asking for the they were asking for the 50th term, then you might actually want to go back. Remember that explicit formula we learned? this explicit formula right here, you might want to go back and use this explicit formula. But you'd have to put two R values in there, a positive 3 and a negative 3. So that's how you can do this or solve a problem just like this, given two values in the sequence, how you can come up with a different value later on, or different term value. And this next section right here, what do we have next? No, let's go one more. Here we go. We want to find the geometric means between two numbers. I'll show you how to do that in this next section.